So I shall remind you, this discussion is being broadcasted on the internet, so we're going to have some internet viewers. And of course, I would like to say thank you to three companies. First of all, Binary District is international digital community that holds conferences, workshops, seminars. And of course, Strelka Institute that have gathered all of us and organizes this discussion. And our general partner to our summer program is Vostok program. It's cryptocurrency scalable solution. So, to introduce our guests so that you would know who is sitting at the podium. So, we have tried to gather representatives of different sides. So we got representatives of classic education and State Duma. We have representatives of corporate universities, and here we also have people that works in corporations and being, for example, HR of MTS Telecom company. So, Sergey Mardanov, Communications Director in Mail Group, then Andrei Shabanov, Vice Director on Research Science Activities of Corporate Universities of Russian Railways, Volkov Dmitry, Development Director of Educational Technologies of Sberbank Corporate University, Pershina Yelena, Director of Functional Competencies Department of Corporate Academy of Rosatom, Tamara Shatova, HR Director of MTS Telecom Company Moscow Division, Agarmizyan Igor, Vice President of High School of Economics, Surova Nadezhda, Director of Institute of Management and Social Economic Planning of Plekhanov University, and Ilya Doronov, Managing Director of RBK TV channel. So welcome. I have the first question addressed to corporate universities. First of all, let's start with Sberbank. We're going to have 4 small presentations. We've tried to make them as succinct and as short as possible, but also very functional and helpful. So, the question that I asked on the sidelines, corporate universities, what's their worth and what is your goal? What is your end game? Like, why do you exist? Well, let's start from the fact that, of course, corporate universities pursue different goals, they have different models, and they solve different issues. But in any case, corporate education is necessary not only to, finish the task that public universities couldn't finish. It's also necessary because occupations are changing, labor market is changing, demands are changing. So that's why the concept of what we call lifelong learning, so basically education on a constant basis, it is a central and integral part of our life, whether we're talking about school, university, college, workplace, corporation, and so on. So, and of course, corporate universities, they are tackling the issues and being the center of competencies and qualifications that are being formed in the corporations or companies. So, one of our vice management director, he told us in universities they taught us how to count NPV, but in Sberbank we teach you the special way to count NPV. So this role actually shapes the necessity of corporate universities, although I reiterate, in various corporations this request and demand is done in different ways. What about Sberbank? What do you have in your presentation? Okay, colleagues, I was asked, can I do the presentation standing up? As you will. We have complete freedom of expression. So, I was asked to present a little bit about the challenges that digital era is placing upon us, and of course talk also a little bit about educational technology. So we believe, and I think it's clear that the year 2015, so 3 years ago, it became basically a year where the shift of technologies has started, and we see the exponential growth. Show hands those of you that has a smartphone in the audience. Show them higher a little bit. Very well, very well. So, to my mind, I think that accounts 98% of the audience. So, if I asked this question in 2014, how many hands do you think were there? I think it were a very fewer number. Although the technologies such as DevOps or blockchain or mobile applications, they're exponentially growing, and that is why labor market is also changing. So here are main challenges of global trends that affect global economy. First of all is hardware revolution. The second thing is that we're always online right now. And if we forgot, for example, a smartphone, or you still have some flap telephone at your house, this is a tragedy. You're dead. We don't know how to exist without your phone. Some people can actually, experience some psychotic or mental breakdowns, so we are very dependent on them. So social networks' significance is also growing. So we absorb knowledge not from the teacher in the classroom, but mostly from our friends and peers, from the Facebook, ВКонтакте, Одноклассники, social networks, from our friends and peers. So that's why social networks are dominating. And of course, demographic changes that are happening, for example, the appearance of new generations, Gen Y and Gen Z in corporations, of course, are changing their shape. So what are the conclusions? First one is newly attained irrational behavior of people. For example, in universities, I think many of you also have studied the concept of Adam Smith economic model that states that person always behaves rationally. So he weights his decisions, all the losses and gains, and then he makes some rational decision. For example, if he has one apple, one costs 3 ruble, the other 2, then you will buy 2 ruble apple. But that's not exactly so. Rational person is dead. In most parts, in most cases, we actually are acting irrationally, managed and shifted by other things, for example, marketing, sales. This is all the things that sway us away from rationality. And gamification also pushes us to make irrational decisions. The second and third takeaways is that we see that technologies that disrupt management models of companies. For example, let's take Sberbank. In Sberbank, we position ourselves now as an IT company with banking license. So we went deep into IT channels, and in this sense, of course, the share of IT presence is growing, of course. And, of course, we'll fight for qualified personnel. At first glance it seems that there's lots of people, but on the other hand there's not a lot of qualified people, and the people on the stage know about this, so because they want to hire the best on the best positions at the best time available. I'm gonna skip this slide, I'm sorry. So, how the labor market is changing? Well, of course it is obvious that global automation is already changing the labor market and the map of occupations. By 2025, every 4th workplace will be substituted by a robot. I think it's already has come to us. Complete automation of processes. For example, in Sberbank, about 80% of all the credit loans applications are being approved by robot. Underwriting is also automated. Legal departments and basically legal occupation is disappearing because robot is capable of doing this. Accounting is also disappearing, and I'm actually hold a PhD in accounting, and I understand that my occupation is disappearing because accountants are also, they become extinct. So who is necessary on the labor market right now? We need occupations that don't exist actually right now, that companies are forced to, teach and qualify themselves, which is what we're doing on commercialization or big data or robotics management developers or decision makers. Well, all in all, if we take a look at the tendency of labor market, it's very interesting that right now we see an erosion of so-called middle qualified workforce. I've named legal people, accountants. Those are people that have higher education, but they still occupy some routine professions, and they are considered to be middle occupation level, and it is eroding. Then we will see the erosion of low qualification labor. So from this, of course, we see the necessity of a constant learning and the concept of lifelong learning. But I'm showing you some statistics on the slide on the feedback of employers on how they judge the graduates of universities that come to their work. If 36% state the lack of professional knowledge or skills, it's not exactly a problem, because there are some techniques or technologies of interacting between companies and universities which allow us to increase the capacity of these professional skills and talents. The more complex problem is the lack of what we call soft skills. Is flexible or skills that are not relevant to our profession. So 36% of employers say that university graduates, they actually have lots of problems with interpersonal relations and communications. 46% experience problems with communication skills, and 60% have problems with problem solving and critical thinking. So these things are the most difficult ones to be changed within a company, which is why, and here are the challenges of our digital era in general for educational system. Well, first of all, personalization issue, because all of us we want to study in our own at our own pace. Some people are visual, some of us kinesthetic, some of us audio people, and we want to follow our own trajectory of learning. For example, if you take a look at smartphone, and again take a look at the smartphone, take out your smartphones, really take a look at them. Show hands those of you that have a screensaver is a non-standard one, that you change the wallpaper. Right? This is personalization. Why are you doing this? Why? Tell me. What is the rational essence of this action? All of us, we want some personalized decisions and actions, and this personalization should lead to solving the tasks that I've just mentioned, developing professional skills and software skills that the labor market is requiring, because also predictions is something that we need, because we're living in a big data world, and of course we need it to be established on efficiency of people, and we need to redistribute the responsibility for teaching a person for his education between all the users and all the participants of the process, and of course bearing the shared responsibility also on the student itself is an integral part of a digital era. And of course, the last but not the least are the issues that are related to the attention span. We come from the era of deep attention, and now we are coming to hyper attention, and now we cannot focus ourselves on one object. We are multitasking beings. We are thinking about business models, business issues. We are always multitasking. That is why, to retain our attention on one thing and concentrate on some specific parts of learning, these are the issues that we have in our educational cluster and educational technologies that we're developing. But with that, we also want to get some result, some specific level of competency that we would like to attain, or professional competency, and it has to be done very quickly. So time to competence, time to market, time to decision are key issues. Thank you. Yes, thank you. And with that, it actually turns out that it seems that we are talking about the penetration of new technologies, or for example machine learning, about computers, about all the rest, but we also see that people are starting to experience some real problems when they interact and communicate between two living beings, is what you said, right? So there is a problem in communication, and there's a problem of these soft skills that you said. And here, can a machine teach or substitute a human teacher? Well, I think this is up for discussion. Of course, with the development of digital technologies, as I always say, and entering the digital era, the value of human communication is rising, and this direct human communication is actually motivates us to develop these soft skills. And some technological things allow us to do so. I'll give you an example. So we believe that about issues that of emotional intelligence, for example, empathy or understanding of a person, they are very important right now. For example, now we use VR, so virtual reality, to train some skills of emotional intelligence. So when a person is being immersed in VR simulation and basically puts on the shoes of another person. For example, elderly person that enters a Sberbank bank, and until you walked a mile in his shoes, you can't understand him. So I believe that here there is going to be some mixture of, I think, human communication and, of course, some technological things that will allow us to develop soft skills. But the thing that the soft skills are at the core of our development, because they allow us to do so, I believe they should be in the center of our issues. Let's move on to Russian Railways. What sort of challenges do you experience right now? Because when I visited Corporate University of Russian Railways, I've seen some photographs of students. They are adult people, not junior and young people. Does it seem that only for requalification you got adult people only? Yes, indeed. Russian Railways Corporate University is a part of our global requalification center, and some managers also come to us, and they are quite on a high chain, because I'm going to explain to you why corporate universities are important. It's not just an educational organizations, and the educations or requalification is just one of the functions of it. Of these multifaceted universities, it can take only up to 30% of all the tasks that are being solved by the university. So basically, if we are implementing in modern companies some concept that we don't have employees of HR, we only have HR partners, and they help business implement some tasks with some method of training our people. But corporate university is a HR partner in this equation. It solves different tasks and not just the task of qualification and training. Training is just one of those. And of course, in our company, Russian Railways, we've established this method of corporate universities, and I'll just give you a brief explanation of it. So this is the focus of our employee profile. So we got a lot of employees, of course. They are geographically redistributed across the entire country. And what is peculiar here is the main share of our company's employees are young people, younger than 30 years old, so basically Gen Y or Gen Z, so millennials. In just a couple of years we will see a lot of Gen Z and Homelanders that will also, we have to reshape our management style. But also with that, there is also a very huge challenge to our company, because working in Russian Railways company, you know, it is very oriented on human capacities and human skills, because I'll tell you this, about 40% of all the expenses of Russian Railways company is accounted for our personnel expenditures. They are related to some trainings, further development of our employees. These are the core issues of today. Although we see that, of course, the external conditions are changing, the environment changes, and of course this calls for improvement of our work conditions. And of course, we have some issues. For example, in the management department, about 22% of all the actions are automated. I'm not talking about robotization, I'm talking about automatization. So everything else is done manually. Of course, we get a challenge, for example, for a youngster that comes working in a company, how we can interest him in working in our work environment. Of course, this is a challenge, especially for HR management system and for our corporate universities and our other educational centers. The other number that I would like to draw your attention is the number of managers. It's about 60,000 people. These are the people actually who are the core audience of our corporate university. Another interesting thing of working with employees of Russian Railways is, of course, establishing our processes around our corporate demands. Of course, they include some establishment of some of future corporate competencies and people from secondary education institutions and higher education institutions and additional education institutions. So this is the toolkit that allow us to constantly gauge the level of knowledge of our employees, and of course this tool allow us to react on all the gaps that exist in our competency building scheme, and of course it can help us build educational products. Coming back to the question that our moderator asked, why corporate universities exist? Well, one of the reasons is that we should tackle some essential issues and formulate some objective requirements to companies that can also be relayed on external educational institutions. So some of the issues, of course, are being handled by corporate university itself. Here we see the model of our unified corporate demands. Among these four sections, two uppermost one are competency models. We have one corporate competency model that encompass the soft skills that are required to all employee of the company, and the several managerial skills that are required only among our managers, that are also universal regardless of their department, occupation or profile of their work. And of course some professional competencies. Here there are lots of various models. We got about 30 various departments or occupations, starting from construction, maintenance and up to healthcare or maintaining railways. And these models, they basically encompass some demands to hard skills, most of all because they are required in this professional activity. So we established in our company, I wouldn't say not just in the company, in our holding or even in the entire industry of railways, a specific educational system. This system is very old, actually. It was basically, its progenitor was established, I think, in 19th century, where the first educational institution dedicated to railway industry was opened. So the backbone of this industry include 9 railway universities from St. Petersburg to Khabarovsk city that basically prepare employees for the company. So various shapes and forms of interacting of our company, Russian Railways, with universities, because they are not part of our holding, because of course they are under the management of Transportation Ministry, and up until recently it was under the supervision of Education Ministry, but still we think of them as a part of our system. And the main share of alumni is of course then comes working for our company. And within the framework of our interaction with universities, of course, we implement several specific projects, starting from some targeted education classes, when, for example, universities basically reserves or books a workplace for alumni, future alumni in our company. And there are also some targeted projects that solve some gap or emergency requirements in our employees, starting from some manual laborers people to managerial staff. And of course our corporate university in this regard is seeing itself as a requalification institution, and we work with the heads of CEO -1 or -2, but also we have lots of functional activities such as helping to various departments of our professional competencies of universities, or also we tackle some issues of higher educational institutions. But if we talk about our characteristics and our nature of activity, on this slide you can see in the red color we underscore the projects that are done by the resources of our corporate universities. These are educational programs, for example, requalification, additional education, or international internships, starting from higher managers and also up to some massive programs for our low chain employees. And of course, it supports the idea that HR is a part of corporate university, because we develop the educational model, which is the task of corporate university. So for us, it is very important to be basically at the crossroads of business demands and the capacities of our university, so they would coincide. And using the system of competencies or competencies model, we establish this understanding of two sides of this process. But with that in mind, we take into account the fact that we have lots of young employees of various levels. We also have young managers. There is quite a lot of them, actually. Company implements a project that is called Young People and Russian Railways. This is a massive scale program with lots of different formats, starting from some young forums on international basis and some projects on developing some competencies among young employees. They also include some innovative projects and technological projects. That, of course, keeps the enthusiasm glowing among the employees of Russian Railways. Let me ask you the question about the youth and the managers that are already working. And this is going to be addressed to Russian Rosatom nuclear company. So the youngsters, they are ready to study, they are ready to learn, they're ready to work, and they want new knowledge. But what about managers and bosses? Because they're always, looking very condescending on them. Here they come, they're going to demolish everything because they're afraid for their positions to be retained. Yes, it works. Good afternoon. Can I? So to continue this topic, I think that digital transformation, of course, is done by people. Well, for now, at least. And for us, it is very important, both in the attitudes and in the behaviors of those managers that steer this activity and this work, and how exactly they understand of what's happening around them. You all see this stream of information that goes from digital transformation. All the mass media, all the sources of information are talking about that. But how do people treat this information? Selectively, or do they just swallow everything that comes in their way? Do they have informational hygiene culture? Do they sequence something that they get from outside? That's the first aspect that interests us, and we study this very thoroughly. Second thing is how far people are willing to participate in this. From one side, yeah, this is a very hyped up subject, but on the other hand, do we really want to participate in this? And another aspect is, do we even trust of what's happening around us? It's one thing to, to listen to a conference and to participate and say, yeah, hear you, we support you. But the other thing is the question of whether we believe that this is actually going to happen. This is going to happen either in an industry or in a country. Lots of things, of course, depend on the managerial level. And, of course, we made studies of their opinions to understand how do they basically treat themselves. And we saw some myths, 4 myths to be exact,
which do exist for managers with whom we are working. And you worked inside the Rosatom company, right? Yes, inside our company. But we have 250,000 employees, and the investigation that we've done was rather relevant. And we can say that those myths are truly persistent. Well, the first myth, that the digital transformation has already happened or is about to happen. Well, we were amazed and we thought that it was interesting take out from this investigation. So we see that our heads, our managers already think that we are digital. So people think that the fact that our company is a high technological company, that we see the automatization of some processes, that we use different technologies, it means that we are already going digital. This is an important takeaway of this research, and we'll be working with this fact, not in order to delusion them, but in order to not in order to disappoint them, but in order to let them know the reality and to understand where we are going to, in order not to rest on laurels. Second myth, that the digitalization is a modern trend. What people hear, they hear about VR, Internet of Things, robotics and other things, and they compare technology, and they equate technology and the digital transformation, and that this digital transformation is the application of different technologies in our work process. Many people speak about the automatization, about the unique platforms. You may ask about platforms, because they are platforms, because we are now speaking about the digitalization and digital platforms, but people answer, and people say that the use of digital platforms, the fact of the usage of these digital platforms is the digitalization itself, although in fact it's not true. We are now moving towards the understanding that in fact, in reality, this is a serious change of the way we are doing business. This is a different business model. It is much broader than just skills, just competences, just digitalization. So here we have a lot of things to do. Third myth, still we cannot worry about our future. So from this research, we've seen some interesting results in a way that what do they expect from the digital transformation and the digitalization. It turned out that we are talking a lot. The previous speaker has mentioned that we are working 24/7, that we are accessible, that we have new challenges, that we are overloaded with some information. And our employees answering this question, they think about positive impact, about positive effect, that the labor results will be much higher, and that we will have accessible information, that we will skip this routine, but they always think that personal things are not so important, that the digitalization will require from everybody. Our personal, profound transformation will have to participate in lifelong education, will have to follow the changes that will take place in the world and in Russia, of course. Our professions, of course, may even extinct, or maybe profession will save its name, but it will change its professional substance. Maybe in 5 years we will have to start re-teaching of 1/4 of our employees, or we have to substitute them. So this is quite a challenge for us, and we cannot rest on laurels, because this is a fact that is a matter of concern for us. Now we have our myth number 4. People are ready to actively participate in all those events. They do support digitalization, of course, they support efficiency raise, and it turned out that they are even ready to participate in all those digital teams. But at the same time, when we are asking them, are you ready to become ahead of all those processes? You can become a supervisor, we can give you a digital project, and you can go ahead. And then they answer, no, we have our supervisors, we have our managers, it's up to them to decide. So for us, those leadership issues along with digitalizations, are very important. We want to see leaders that will be ready to assume this responsibility and to lead these projects in the atmosphere of uncertainty. Those are four takeaways from this investigation, from this research. They are similar to other studies, from McKinsey studies and other company studies. They are quite similar to those barriers that we have now. There are some concrete specific issues, but the trends are the same. Here my colleague said that we have reality and we have myths. And the reality for us is that we, being a corporate university, being a corporate academy, we want people to be assured of themselves, that they are ready, and then they are able to change themselves. This is our mission. Having a graduate, having a young specialist, we are helping him to adapt to fast changes that are taking place so that he could be useful for the business. For this, we have concrete, specific programs that are being launched, and we are, of course, trying to create corporate culture where people will be able to perform their functions. For us, digitalizations are not only technologies, are not only competences. For us, this process is a unique system that includes communications so that everybody can understand everything in the same way. Learning, it includes learning, policies and procedures that may become a barrier, and then they can prevent us from moving forward. And for us, being a state corporation is a very important issue when we have some procedural barriers and obstacles. And it also includes digital instruments. I will just be brief. I would like to show you briefly my last slide. Those are four elements for us. Now we are thinking, how can we communicate with inside our company so that everybody will be aware of everything? We understand that the digital personnel, digital specialists will not be attracted by this brand now because some different things are important for them. The brand that we have now is not very attractive for them. So we are now working on our value. We have some mentorship programs. We, for example, now introduce reverse mentorship. So this is the mentorship upside down, as we call it. We have some digital specialists that can teach our employees. And it is also very important who will come to us, because we can develop competences, but it's also very important who will come to us. We are waiting for good specialists whom we will be able to teach and who have good technological basis. Can we now draw attention to the state universities, because this was point of view of corporate universities. Their mission is to train those students who come to them, who come to work to these companies, so they are customizing them. In modern situation, when we see a permanent, constant revolution, public universities, what's the main problem that they are facing with? Are they able to change? This is my question to Nadezhda Surova. And besides, we mention the problem of supervisors who are living in myths and they do not understand what is happening. As for State Duma, do they understand what is going on now and what we have to do? Well, dear colleagues, how they are turning on, dear colleagues, could you please launch my presentation? Of course, in our State Duma, this is our task to elaborate 52 laws, and now I would like to start with this, and I would like to start with what expects us. So this is a small video that we prepared for you. So here we have all the innovations that we were thinking about for the next 40 years. So if we live through 2042, we'll be immortal. So first thing we have to do, we have to live to this year. So I'll be going through slides very fast. As of today, the only document that talks about digital technologies is the program Digital Economy. We do not have any other laws. We have another laws about the cryptocurrency. We have some changes to civil code introduced by Mr. Volodin. Why am I here? I would like to hear from you if you have some initiatives, some opinions or comments, how to legalize this industry, how to legalize this crypto activity, mining technology or other activities. If you have some comments or opinions, I'll be ready to take your opinion, I'll be ready to take your comment and to introduce you to our expert circle and expert groups. We have different areas here. As of today, all my colleagues mentioned that the most interesting technologies that we are now dealing with is the artificial intelligence and neurotechnologies. I would like to take on what our colleagues have said. The only way how we can become one of the 5 major economies of the world is to digitalize our economy. We have many companies, for example, Mail Group. I would like to thank Sergey for this, and Russian Railways Company and Yandex Company. They are first companies that are Russian major companies and leaders in digitalization as of today. But we understand that without development of technologies, you may now see how companies are trying to introduce end-to-end technologies to their business, and we understand that along rapid growth and new scales, we have new possibilities, new horizons, new businesses. But we do understand that social inequality is growing. Those who know social equality and who do not know. So here's another video for you that we made. Give us some sound, please. So are we vulnerable? Yes, we are vulnerable. You remember Dmitry has shown you the telephone, your smartphone, and he has asked you about the personalization. Are you ready to give your smartphone to your neighbor? No, but you are doing this, in fact, every second. Well, now we have our topic that is learning and teaching. I would like to speak about the possibilities that the higher education system can provide you with. Plekhanov University, as well as Sberbank, has created the University for Development. We have our own competency center. We are We have our ICO projects, we have our blockchain technology system, where we have different programs on all the 9 technologies, beginning from the higher and ending with the additional education. One moment is important for us is new technology of joint programs. For you, maybe this is the future business, and for you, it's a possibility to expand the number of professional personnel. So the first stage is the net contract. It may be different universities, different groups of universities. You can launch any program giving what you want to give, what you want to teach. And university is in charge of approving this program of higher and additional education. Then targeting education. Then financial element. When students are entering the university, they can hire you, that you can teach your students. And the last thing is the creation of joint structure, when on the basis of different universities you can have your lab and you can teach the specialists you want, specifically on your platform. I would like to invite Russian Railways, Sberbank and Mail.ru companies to do it jointly. Maybe other companies would join us as well. From the things that we've done, I can show you financial results. Only one program is one of the most famous. Is Fund Captains of Russia. We are allocating different. We are allowing different programs. I am not preparing people for companies. I am preparing people that will create business. They will be opinion leaders and leaders of their future businesses. We have our own venture fund of 80 million of direct investments that we are giving to students so that they could create and establish their own businesses. This is the fund that supports students who are doing digital entrepreneurship. From what we've done from the point of view of technologies, those are our classrooms. This is when business has its own classrooms. They rearrange it for themselves and they are trying to teach their own things. As for the blockchain technology and digital technology, in higher education we have the first higher education program in blockchain. This is the digital transformation of business. Students are creating business when they are studying and they are leaving Plekhanov University with their own business already. And finally, blockchain and entrepreneurship program, blockchain programming, and the thing that is more important for me and for the State Duma is blockchain and lawyers. I have my best lawyers here. They are very well-known judges from the Supreme Court and lawyers. Those are the people who can protect you. For example, a woman can file a claim against his husband because he has some cryptocurrency, but he didn't know what it is and what to do with this. As for the moment, we don't have any definitions of these terms in our criminal code or civil code, so this is very important. This is the program that can support you. 215 lawyers and specialists are waiting for you. You can study in any university on any of these programs. This is the possibility to launch your own business. In digital area, we don't have small numbers. We have only big and major businesses. They can maybe even crazy or interesting. Well, the most crazy business is the IT simulator. I would like to offer this to Sberbank. This is the ICO on creating dreams that can be managed. A man can take on his glasses and he will be able to see the dream that he wanted to see. That's the thing that we are doing now. And at the end, I would like to show you the main blockchain platforms that we established. Of course, among my students, I have business representatives. Those are the systems that we've created. We are working with the Ministry of Digital and Digital Communications. We have Smart University and other systems. I would like to thank my colleagues for doing such important things, creating the basics of new economy. Thank you so much. Well, thank you. I would like to ask Mr. Mardanov from Mail.ru whom company needs, what students, and whether our universities are able to prepare these students now. Thank you so much. Well, it is midday now, and you are here. You are not very interested in a pension reform, as I can see, and that's the right thing, because today learning is more important as of today, because you will have to do lifelong learning and to gain by what you are doing and not by your pension. And as for choosing the university, as of today we have to understand that we don't have universities, well, for us, it's not training a specialist that we will be ready to absorb to our company. Maybe this is the right thing, because it's not possible to customize everything for everybody. But from the other side, we understand that there is an absence of some basic things. We have to come to universities and we have to talk to students that are now starting on the second or the third year, and to teach them and to train them, and only after these additional programs he will be more or less prepared for junior specialists inside our company. And we will not be able to absorb everybody, but we are doing these things, and every year more than 2,800 people are going through our special courses in 7 universities as of today, and only 150 interns will be able to enter our company. And our university is ready to react to your requirements and to your needs. When you come to universities, how do you talk to them? For example, guys, we need these and these specialists, and we would like to collaborate with you. Of course, universities are trying to offer their own options, and for example, we've seen now the presentation from previous speaker, and of course we are interested in cooperation with universities. But our priorities are internal tasks, internal goals. For example, do we need blockchain specialists in large amounts? If this will be the case, then we will be searching for the university who is training these specialists. Now, we do have such universities, but as of now, as of today, we do not have any product that will be reaching this level. And as of today, we are one of the most important specialists in this area. We have banking license, like Sberbank company, but we are working in different format. For example, we've launched VK Pay and other formats. This is a different format of working with sales and e-commerce in general. Well, we are training specialists that are demanded by our internal tasks, and this is the format that we are working with university. Or maybe he's working in our office in some region. We understand that there is a lack of some specialists in this specific office, and then we are launching our special educational program. But we understand that the requirements are more broader, because digital skills are required by many students, and not everybody will not be able to acquire and absorb those skills in the at the universities. Only through online education and with the use of VR and other different technologies, through cloud services, they will be able to learn, while mixing online and offline education, or online-only education. You will be able to train in this area. I would like to repeat that this is a permanent and constant thing. You will not be able to study one area and you will not be able to work through all your life in this area, because in 5 years after your graduation, your knowledge will come to naught, and what you studied on your first year will be completely useless after 5 or 6 years after your graduation. Technological cycles are different on the labor market if we compare it with the universities, because we are renewing our technologies faster, and unfortunately our educational system is not able to keep this pace, and online courses are a bit faster. For example, we purchased the GameBrains platform a couple of years ago, and more than 1,000,000 students have gone through this platform. We will not be able to do this inside universities in offline, but still, nevertheless, this is an opportunity, this is a possibility, and we have to, of course, understand that that's the thing that we have to do in schools, because modern pupils, maybe they do not need to enter universities in order to become a professional in some area, because when he was 10 years old, he could start some online courses, and by his 14 years, he will be able to start working at the age that is permitted by labor laws. We have examples when 16-year guys are working in the Contacte program, and he's working on some apps that you are using. This is the Clever application, this is the online quiz game, and it was done really by 16 years old guy. So my next question goes to Tamara Shatova from MTS company. Will you be ready to take a guy without university education but with online courses that he has done? Will you be ready to take this guy? What would you say to him? That's a good question. Well, I would say yes, I will be ready to do this, but I'm not sure whether my business will be ready to do this. So how we are working? We, I mean HR specialists. We are trying to find specialists who will be attracting money for us, and then we'll be able to send this money for our personnel in order to refresh the stuff that we have now. I do want to admit as many young professionals as we can, but we have to understand that we have to invest more to their development. Are we ready to do this? Because we need time to work with him, to teach him, to be his mentor, to give him some feedback, what's wrong, what's bad, what's good, what he has done right or has not. And now business is ready for this. Business is ready to do this. So yeah, they are ready to do this now. And the situation is that, according to our studies, if we would take only the younger specialists from the labor market, and then we had to spend some time for adaptation and with some new investments from our side, and we compared it with what we are spending, 2 years education in universities, and it turned out that this mode it would be more efficient than searching for somebody in the labor market and then trying to insert him into the company. Yes, it is more cheap, but we understand that some university for us is that is providing with the basic service of telecommunication, now gives us specialists who do not even understand what is 4G, how to build it up. And we are the 5th generation. We're now testing the 5th generation of our network. And in the future, in the nearest future, we'll have the 7th and 8th generation, but they do not know about this. And our task as a business is to provide these people with an opportunity to try with their own hands how to do this when they are still studying at the university, through the university's labs, through internship programs, through different programs when they come to our companies. And of course, I agree with you that it is more cheap, it's far more cheap, and we are trying to do this on our own. This is the task that corporate universities have. So either we have to fire people that are working with us now and to find those who will be able to do this task, or we have to teach them. The most efficient way is to teach them, because people are already loyal, they love you as their employer, they've already brought some results, and you'll be able to work with them in the future. So how can they stay in your company and work with you in the future?
Because you can say, yeah, okay, you have a high salary, thank you, MTS company, so we'll take your person. it's just about fostering loyalty to your brand, because right now we are experimenting the program with the school children. When even starting from the elementary school, we are actually fostering potentially loyal employees and loyal users of our product. So this is happening via brand, via relations with the person, and via our product. So my next question: which era do we have now? The era of employee or employer? I think this is the era of universities. I believe that now is the time for universities, because we all depend on them, because it's up to them what sort of people they will teach, because of course, as you said, you can establish various programs, but the question is how skilled is a person in working within the team, or how is he actually loyal or reliant on the company values, because it is very difficult to change these values when you're 40 or 50. Okay, Igor, I have next question to you. They say that now is the time for universities. Do you agree with this or disagree? Because this is a big problem, that classic education lasts for 4 or 5 years. So let's say that the person graduated and said, oh, my knowledge is outdated. How do you deal with that? Well, thank you. I actually am very happy that in the second part of this section we had a real discussion, and I would like to ante up on it. And I would like to start from the point that in order to comprehend on how we should rightfully prepare experts for living in the digital era, you have to understand that corporations, I mean big employers, generally speaking, can be divided on producers of these technologies and their consumers. With all due respect to my colleagues from corporate universities, nor Russian Railways, nor Rosatom, nor Sberbank, although Sberbank is the closest one, they are not producers of technologies, they are consumers. And their demand to personnel and the staff members and their qualifications and criteria, because I deeply respect these companies, but telecom giants, these big three, they don't produce technological product, they just provide you with a service on using and utilizing this technological product, this digital environment where we all exist. These are different things, because, for example, Mail.ru company, I think, is the only representatives among us who is actual producer of technologies, although they come from a very difficult class, because they have a segment of B2C. So for end customer, basically. But there is, of course, another class of producers of technologies that are working on B2B market. And, of course, in a sense, they provide technologies that, furthermore, both telecom operators and banking systems and traditional industrial producers apply to create their final product. So this division, it is of absolute importance, and it very greatly shapes the paradigm of modern education. So to prepare and teach consumers of digital technologies in our digital era, and to prepare producers, so those who will be capable of making something new in this sphere, these are two different things. Of course, you have to handle both of these. We as universities, we understand this, and we actually adopt and implement programs that are called data culture. So this is a culture with working with digital data, or cultural literacy, as we call it, in absolute cross-cutting way for all our faculties. So we have these programs for all, starting from economists to philologists, linguists, history majors. So in the last 2 years, we actually are unfolding these programs on data culture for all faculties, all departments, and it is, of course, customized within the frame of this or that program. But nonetheless, we include this element of data search, data analysis, data programming, for extracting data, and also a very important thing that has already been mentioned of digital hygiene, so an ability to sequence the data that you can trust and figure out what can be done or and cannot. I have a question for a student that comes to your university to study. What is important for them? That, for example, a teacher that is teaching them is to be an expert in what he's talking about, and he has to be a practitioner of these skills. Do you have lots of them? Yes, of course. In order to massively implement this data culture program for all specialties and all occupations, we use our professional resources of our IT department, which is actually one of the leading ones in the world. For example, recently we've had a very interesting event, so our educational program on programming engineer, I think the first one among all the Russian educational program got accreditation of International Council of Accreditation in Engineering and Technology. So this is world-class program, and of course we prepare world-class experts and specialists. So this program was established a couple of years ago with the Yandex company, with Mail.ru. We've been working as our colleagues, and Sberbank as well. It has its own program on the faculty of IT. So these experts, they prepare programs for preparation of all faculties, customizing and preparing employees that are going to work directly with students, because of course you have to have understanding of the subject that you are specializing in. So the faculty of IT and the other faculty of engineering, electronics and mathematics, they are focused on a different type of experts. They prepare experts that won't be users of these digital technologies, nor those that apply digital technologies in their everyday life, but instead they will be focused on producing these digital technologies, and this is absolutely different program altogether. I would like to make a small comment. Of course we work with B2B a whole lot. Maybe it's not that visible in public, but nonetheless our targeting for our company is, of course, we use social networks or cloud technology, even corporate mail is utilizing that. Though I would like to absolutely support my colleague here, because the key issue here is teaching the users of all the IT toolkits, because unfortunately it is indeed the problem that what we create, we don't actually have time to teach to use this. For example, if it's the issue of targeting, and we have to teach users ourselves, to invite them to our office and to talk about how we can utilize this so that it would be easier for them. And this indeed can be a core issue for interacting between universities and companies, in the sense that these technological solutions that are being established in companies would be transferred faster to universities, so that them could teach their students. I should also note that historically speaking, it was always like this, really. And this exponential growth of computer market in the 70s and 80s of the last century, when the computer revolution began, by a large margin was related to the fact that universities took part in this. For example, Apple really focused on educational market back then. So here, I would like to emphasize another issue, a symmetrical issue to what I've been talking about. So the application of digital technologies in education and preparing people on digital technologies are two different things. We are very actively using digital technologies for organizing educational processes, starting from some MOPs, Coursera, which are the leaders in Russia on the number of students that enrolled in our courses in international market. About 1 million people have watched and attended our online courses of High School of Economics. So we are actually developing a next-gen interactive systems of education on digital and personalized student books. This is going to be the next step. But this is, of course, the application of digital technologies in education. The other side of this question is how we can accurately teach digital technologies to people and how to apply these technologies, because in this sense technologies are much more conservative than digital technology, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel again, because we've done this 20 or 30 years ago, and more or less the story is known. And I can't help but tell my colleagues from corporate universities tell a small anecdote. So I'm working in Microsoft, and I was working in Microsoft in the mid-90s, and I came to Moscow after a big international project on one of the first internet banking systems, global ones. And when I entered the top brass of Sberbank, I told them, let's make an internet bank. You can't imagine how much they laughed at me. Then, of course, a couple of years later, I said that story to German Gref, and he, of course, was tearing his hairs from the head. But at that time, of course, we didn't have that capacity. But the outside world has done this already, and the vision of digital transformation of companies that consume digital technologies and those that produce digital technologies is absolutely different. So today, consumers are going through the path of what we've done 20 or 30 years ago as producers. Okay, Dmitry, your call. I actually want to disagree with you, because in modern world the line between production and consumption is almost gone, because you're saying that Sberbank only consumes digital technologies and we don't make anything. That's not true. It's absolutely not true, because we have a huge division that's called Sberbank Technologies, and we have lots of labs with the application of AI, cybersecurity, all big data models, robotization of underwriting. What is this if not production? If we take a look at the number, we are very close to Russian Railways. We are the second company after Russian Railways in our research divisions. We have about 330,000 people, and we're going to have much less people in the future, although the number of employees of Sberbank will be shorter, but the structure of workforce will be dramatically different. Right now, the divisions that are tackling the R&D are growing. I absolutely agree with you. I know all of that. I know all of that. I say that I would like to ante up on our general debate here. But with these divisions of Sberbank, we are actively cooperating. I said that we had joint educational programs on the faculty of IT, and I know the people that are working on this division in your company. Yes, I know that Sberbank is moving along the digital transformation on making its own company, a new type of company, because it's not a bank anymore, because it's obvious that banks in its traditional sense will disappear in the nearest future. It's obvious, and it's been obvious. Yeah, with that I agree. So, Dmitry, I have a question for you. We've just said that there are lots of courses online, you can attend them, and all of the people are boasting that, look, we translated all the courses into Russian. But how do you sift through this? Because, for example, Sberbank has its own program. For example, Sberbank Academy Russia, and I watched, and it doesn't have lots of views on YouTube. So people are not aware of this, or people do not trust it. So how do you accurately choose these online courses for yourself in an accurate basis? Okay, colleagues. Well, here we have to mention two things, I believe. First, new role of those that are working in the educational sector is what I call educators. So those that are dealing with educations in their various shapes and forms. And of course, modern educator is a person that is mostly a facilitator or moderator or maybe even navigator for giving personalized solutions to people to help us sift through this large volume of open content that exists. We're talking about the role of educator when he came to classroom, read a lecture, and shared his knowledge with his students. It's gone. Yes, of course, it still exists, but of course, it is being overpowered by facilitators' function or navigators of process. It is clear that there are some systems that allow us to automate these issues. Right now, on a lot of conferences on corporate etiquette, we're talking about a curation system or organization system from open to closed content. So, on the purpose of curating our contents, we had an internal system of educating of our corporate universities. You can actually take all the courses you want, and we will establish a system of those materials that you can study. Although, I do agree, the question of selecting high-quality content is one of the key matters here, and the question of efficiency of investments on making your own content is a tricky one. But particularly, I agree with you on the issue that investing in internet or digital courses, resources, or digital elements of our content, we are now moving towards estimating its efficiency using marketing metrics on visitation numbers, on popularity, because do you have any preliminary takeaways from this? Okay, initial conclusions. You have to know thy customer. You have to know what he wants. And try to establish a system that allow you to take into account all the needs of your customer. And you can do this either via deep understanding of your consumer or collection of the data that you have at your disposal. So simultaneously, we're also tackling this issue. Imagine, corporate University of Sberbank were responsible for teaching 36,000 managers, and each manager basically takes up 2.5 programs per year. So they are taught via platforms, and we collect data. We have lots and lots of data that allow us to establish a personalized and customized trajectory of your education process. And we've learned to collect data in the right way, but we're still learning on the basis of this data to make some predictions. Igor, you also wanted to say something about this, and then Sergey. Yes, I will also support my colleague, and the idea that universities are now becoming the centers of I don't know, development of capacities for your improvement, it's absolutely obvious. We, for the longest time, been dealing with this. Even when I was working in a Russian venture company, Sergey actually was curating a program on interacting with universities back then. But what's important is to understand that the role of universities and the methods of educations, they are changed dramatically, and they will be changing even more in the future. So university is turning into a place where you don't learn some set of skills, but instead it is a place where you have to teach people how to study properly. So it's not about methodics, really. It's a culture of a new age, not just digital age, but also an age of entrepreneurship, which we mentioned, the culture of project management, the communication culture is what we really lack right now. And all that becomes much more important than some prolific or profile subjects, and you have to give a person an opportunity to correctly establish your own educational track and to pick these subjects that are of interest to you, and you have to cut off all the hyped up subjects, because really we are seeing such situations when, for example, all the students are enrolling on one course. For example, there was a course on blockchain last year, for example, and it was obvious. It was obvious, and now everybody suddenly an experts on blockchain, and it's just because of the hype towards learning about this. But really, there are much deeper and fundamental things, particularly the blockchain itself is based upon. and that actually not all people can grasp, because they actually demand deep mathematical understanding. But of course, we still have some traditional mathematics is being taught that is as relevant as early 20s. That was used to produce a nuclear bomb or aerospace technologies. But all modern civilization is based on absolutely different discretion mathematics, which is not known by everybody. So what does the state has to do so the university would change their methodics from old mathematics to new mathematics? Actually, we've done a lot already, and this is pertaining to the document that allow us to change the educational format. It is very unique. So, for example, we can look at the joint initiatives of universities, and we see what sort of teachers are teaching these courses. It would be good to have 50-50, 50% from academia and 50% from corporate companies. For example, recently we've done interesting initiatives with HackOU. If you want to do cybersecurity, you have to apply. You have to know yourself, you have to see what sort of universities are giving this program and what does it give you along with your diploma, because it has to give you networking, competency, skills, and opportunities to make a business. Thank you. Can you actually, make this transformation with an old school method when you say, look, all of us will just go and study digital economy. This is already happening. Yeah, I know. So this is double meaning question, because for us it seems that it's just, the decree was adopted by the government and everybody, are marching towards studying digital economy. Corporations are moving towards it. What makes MTS Telecom company move towards it? It's actually not done with the help of the state, to be fair. We get money right here, right now, or we don't if we're not going to move towards that direction. Because, for us it is much more profitable to lose less money and earn more, because this is the cornerstone of each big corporation that wants to, stay ahead and still be profitable. The problem is that when you don't find the necessary resource and trying to all the different ways of finding it, we're of course becoming more smarter, because, for example, we say talented boys and girls, if you have some ideas, if you have some disruptive technologies, just bring it to us. Bring it to us. Don't wait until you graduate from your university. Please come and we will take you up on our company and you will help us to create a product. IT, cloud technologies, we will teach you from within. You don't have to wait until your graduation. Why am I talking about this? I didn't say just because that now is the time for universities. And if universities will not start to progress a little bit faster and answer the demands of business, then we will take the matter into our own hands and tackle this issue this way. I'm sorry, just a small comment. I am in complete agreement with you. And this tendency of this year, 2018, just the newest one, is that big technologies or big companies such as Google, Facebook, Microsoft have stopped demanding higher education diplomas. Yeah, that was one of my questions. Why are we going to need universities at all if corporations are just saying, guys, you don't need diploma. Just come if you're smart, if you're brave. Because university has to teach these guys and girls to become the way to be of interest to corporations. It's not about diploma. I would actually add up on that basically it's not a time for universities. Now is the era for universities to make a decision after which there's going to be a point of no return. Because even now we are witnessing a huge differentiation of universities on the level of preparation, of the level of teaching, on the management level, on the understanding of the environment and the tasks of business. and tasks in general in our life. So, if leading universities, of course, for them, there are some platforms for further development and interaction, but universities that don't understand this topic, they will just, become trade schools, that's it. Yes. So for 17 years old graduates of high school, they can't make right decisions on where to move on next. So I think universities are necessary for this specific issue, first and foremost. And of course, it's clear that they don't know where the trajectory is going to move then, because in school they were not taught this. They were not given this wide range of choice, and as a result, we just say that with this bottleneck of our school preparation is the problem of lack of focus in school. Because, for example, now we don't teach IT in schools, more than social sciences. And if we, for example, we increase the enrollment points from state unified exams from schools, there won't be enough to enroll anybody, because you have to start from schools, not from universities. For example, that's why we start our own school courses, student Olympics, some initiatives that are related to information awareness, but that's not a lot. That's not enough for example, in comparison of what a teacher can do. Now, a teacher has to become a conductor that can lead you towards some way. And in 10 years of time, for example, walk into school will be accompanied with just putting on your VR goggles, sitting on your sofa at home. And then it can be done directly with, some software that is going to be lying underneath this VR. When you can just touch something, you can... Yes, exactly, absolutely. We are doing the same scenario with the government of Moscow. We understand that we can't physically bring all the school kids that want to come to our office, because, of course, office is going to be overloaded, and you cannot let school kids on our work floors. But, of course, they're interested in to see how does it look like. So we just made a VR tour, a complete VR tour, and the Moscow school children, starting from 1st of September, can walk in our office to see how our colleagues are working, to understand in terms of choosing future profession, so that they would know what to study next. Yes, Nadezhda. Yeah, as a conclusion, I would like to support Sergey and Leonid. Yes, exactly. Universities are becoming one of the priorities of our economy development. And why is that? Because for the smallest towns of Russia, what is the only center of improvement and development? Where is all the intelligent elite is focused? It's either school, it's either trade school, or college or universities. This is the only cluster of society development. Of course, it supports the future. So you asked me what to do. We have to expand the models. Right now, with the Ministry of Science, we are making new clusters of schools. Of what you said, Sergey, we are making unification of universities and employers as one consortium, where everybody would know what competencies they would get. And I thank all of my friends that they made this contribution for everybody. And I really believe that what Agency for Strategic Initiatives is doing right is starting education not with children, but with parents. Thank you. Yes, Elena? I support universities, because universities give us fundamental education. I believe that it's a must. And we, as corporations and different companies, we need it. We are not ready to take a physicist with, a school diploma and teach it further on in our corporate universities. We need good graduates from universities. The other thing I wanted to say, since we're talking about myths, we have to break a myth that university will give us a prepared expert that is ready to work. So our position as a corporation is being partners of our specialized universities, our main universities. First of all, we need an expert. We know what sort of skills and talents he should have, and we are responsible of what university is going to graduate, since we're partners. Let's give a floor to Igor, and then we will conclude, and I will ask a couple of questions from the audience. If you have, then you can ask our speakers.
I have a brief comment on what has been said. I think the problem of engineering education in our country is one of the most pressing and relevant in all the topics dedicated to the development of economy of our country. This type of education, according to Soviet-era standards that we have in many universities up today, we had a method of different areas. For example, we have railroads universities, but as well we have nuclear universities. We have a number of other universities dedicated to different industries. For example, communications institutes. And I think that in engineering education we will see a brand new reform which will change this method to a new principle. I mean, the stages of the life cycle of a product. That will happen because digital platforms that are seeing the design and operation of different systems in different areas, they become to merge. And it turned out that information technologies and this digitalization are the greatest tool for scaling of knowledge, and these knowledge are going to different engineers of different qualification. They are going to the platforms where we see the automatization in different areas, and that's why engineers, designers, those who work on operation of different systems and those who work in maintenance of different systems, those are different set of requirements, but these sets of requirements are rather close in all the areas. So these principles of shifting to stages of life cycle, I don't know how to call it better, that's the process that is being evolving and turning out in different countries, and that's what we have to do in Russia. Dear colleagues, do you have any questions? Who will give the mic, or I should give to those who have questions and give them the mic? So I will do this. I'll approach you now. My name is Sergei Krasnoselsky. I'm a bit puzzled by what you've said. At the end, we talked about engineer education in our country. Well, there is no such a thing as engineer education in our country. We see some product of pseudo-engineering education. That is more of enlightening, because we have engineers that are unable to create anything in their own area, and we can see if we will look around. There's nothing that would be created by us, or almost nothing. Well, they are not engineers. They are just people that understand something in this engineering area. They can work in engineering shop, or they can give excursions in museums, in Polytechnic Museum, for example. And for me, personally, most important thing was said by Mr. Volkov. He is already living in virtual world. He is consuming things virtually, but we are living in a real material world, and this world requires us, those who are creating this world. So what's your question? My question is, why doing bullshit? Why just doing all those things again when we are adding some digital elements to our gaps in economy, in education in different areas? That's my question. So who will take this question? Well, I have a feeling that there are no digital transformations in the world at all. Well, I maybe will comment on this. It will not be an answer, because the direct answer why doing this is because we want to continue living, because those who will not go through digital transformation now will find themselves in a situation of those countries that did not go through industrialization of 18th and 19th century, and we all know the results of this. For example, Arab mathematics in the Middle Ages was the leading mathematics in the world, and where is it now? If we want to find ourselves in such a situation, of course, we can do nothing. But if we do not want to, then we'll have to, because digital platform today has become a basis of every type of human activity. But can we just dismiss some digital technologies in our everyday life? No, it would not be possible, because we cannot dismiss machine engineering technologies, because without this area you will not be able to produce even bread, to bake a bread, because in Middle Ages people were able to produce bread in different mills. Today bakery is impossible without machine engineering, but is equally impossible without digital technologies that would be given its management. So just please briefly, because we have another questions, I just would like to end on this. As of today, Russia is the only country, almost only country, except for China and the US, they have their own IT developments, leading IT developments that are being used in different countries, and they are more for mathematics than for armed forces. And that's the first comment. And the second one, I do agree that there are not too much physical things, but they do exist, and if we do not create some virtual instruments, for example, data first is a key result for everything. And previous speaker was right there. We will find ourselves behind many countries, and we will lose positions, as it happened when we were leaders in outer space, and what is happening now we all know. So next question, please. My question is about mathematics. You said that one of the Moscow universities is a producer. Engineers want to get better education. Of course, it's clear, but except for this university, maybe some humanitarian universities, maybe in St. Petersburg, we have some hope for a better future. So could you please clarify your question? My question is about mathematics. There is a Moscow University that not being prepared there. We have Natalia Kaspersky, who is a graduate from this university, MIEM University. But do we have other universities in our country? Well, speaking specifically about higher School of Economics or about the educational system in general, well, no, the HSE is too young. Well, but this university still has one of the best mathematics faculty in our country. Not only MIEM University, but they have fundamental mathematics. But who is working there in HSE? For example, Mr. Vasilyev. Okay. So he will be our beacon of hope. So do you hear me well? Good afternoon, my name is Valery. First of all, I would like to thank our speakers for interesting discussion of this topic. My question relates to decisions that are being taken in the interrelation between different areas. For example, Mail.ru can collaborate with educational institutions or corporate universities. They bought geek brains that allows us to attract and to train and to raise qualification of different personnel. Sberbank has its own corporate university, as well as Russian Railways and other companies, Higher School of Economics or other universities. So each institute has its own goals. How do you communicate? How do you see the ways of eliminating some problems or obstacles? That's more a general question. Well, I can answer. What we do, as I've mentioned, we have communication and cooperation with universities. We have educational projects, and we are establishing them jointly with them, with the universities, and we are giving additional education to students so that they can enter labor markets. Not only our company, the other companies that are presented here on the panel. Second moment, how do we work with corporations? Geekbrains has the possibility to train specialists, taking into account requirements of different companies, different businesses, and they have partnership relationship with different companies where corporation pays for this learning, online education, or they're using Geekbrains for educating their personnel. We do have such formats, they are possible. I can even add something. Sberbank is a dispersed company. We are presented in different Russian regions, and in each and every region we have basic department of a university, which is a main supplier for our regional offices. But we understand that by this we are supporting present positions. If we are talking about breakthrough technologies, there are different directions. For example, establishing of different master programs, not only in economics and management and finance, but also in programming, in computer technologies, big data, and of course in this we are working with leading universities, HSE, with MIFI and other universities. You very well know them, and our corporate university also works in retraining rectors of those universities so that they could absorb this new philosophy, as we call it. In order to work with the specific university, we have to understand that this is not just a big mouth that requires money, and Sberbank will always pay. We do speak about mutually beneficial cooperation when everybody understands our goals, ideology and philosophy of our interaction in order to train new specialists. So we can now take last question. Good afternoon, my name is Anastasia. First of all, thank you so much for such an interesting discussion, such an interesting presentations. My question will go to representatives of universities, because we've talked about interaction of companies and universities, taking into account digitalization of the society and digital economy. How can student and teacher can interact? What's the place of a student in this landscape? How do we implement new digital etiquette? So this is the question that I would like to address you. Well, thank you. I can comment on this. Well, I've already mentioned that university's task is changing, not only to teach something, not only to give him this sum of knowledge, but how to work with this knowledge and how to extract this knowledge from digital landscape that surrounds us. But there is a factor which is more important, the change in the role of a teacher. Here we've talked about the fact of eroding of requirements to the middle class. This is what happens in the educational area. Having high quality online courses, we do not understand why should we have some average teacher that will give some lectures. So the effect that we are expecting, this process is now undergoes. This is not just the current.
Скорее всего, будет меняться модель. Преподаватель в большей степени будет становиться, условно говоря, наставником, тьютором, работающим со студентом в абсолютно интерактивном режиме и в каком-то смысле в партнерском режиме. А лекционная, традиционная университетская система, она уйдет полностью рано или поздно в онлайн, и в мире останется там пара сотен человек, которые будут читать лекции для всего мира. И это будут лучшие лекторы в мире, независимо от того, где, в какой стране они живут. То же самое, кстати говоря, произошло, вот я уже упоминал, с системами автоматизации и проектирования. Знание о инженерных решениях, там, необходимых в сопромате, например, оно ушло из инженерной деятельности в деятельность по разработке систем автоматизации и проектирования. И в мире там есть человек 200, которые являются суперквалифицированными специалистами, которые, собственно, закладывают эти знания в САПры, в десятки компаний, которые этим занимаются. Понимаете, то же самое будет в университетах происходить. Более того, я уверен, что это будет общий тренд всего абсолютно по всем отраслям. Будет выделяться очень небольшая группа, определяющая, я не хочу называть это там элитой или как-то, тех, кто определяет развитие отрасли, и достаточно большая горизонталь тех, кто эту отрасль эксплуатирует.
Большое спасибо. Давайте завершать. Мне кажется, что для преподавателя в современном мире нужно быть, скорее всего, прежде всего авторитетом. Не будешь ты авторитетом среди студентов, никто к тебе не придет и никто тебе не будет доверять. Отвечая на вопросы, зачем нам заниматься цифровыми технологиями и зачем нам меняться, вот тут мы говорили, что такая сейчас точка, когда каждый должен принять решение. А тут, наверное, можете спросить, а зачем нам дышать? Если мы не будем дышать, то что? И если мы не будем заниматься цифровыми технологиями, то произойдет то же самое. Вам большое спасибо, спасибо нашим гостям. Мы очень надеемся, что было интересно и полезно для вас. Спасибо.